Hello, this is Skylit Lake reading Wine and Dine in Spite by Vienna Azu. Chapter 4 Fire and Flame. As a general rule of thumb, and properly aligned with his previously generated judgment, Izuku did not particularly like Endeavor. He never liked Endeavor, to be honest, since before his UA days, and all that not for any particular reason back then, but rather because Izuku couldn't bring himself to respect and approve of the hero who sees the public relations and civilian interactions as much more of a hassle than a responsibility. With his own idol being All Might, Izuku always had been of the belief that heroes should save everyone with a smile, or, at the very least, try for a somewhat pleasant manner, while still being reassuring. It's one of the major deficits he thinks Kachan should work on, not that the blonde would listen to him anyways. Either way, he didn't like Endeavor back then, and he doesn't like Endeavor now, with everything Shouto had told him. Mostly because of the whole deal with Shouto. Izuku tries not to think too much about it, as it oftentimes just leaves him feeling upset and useless, which the dual user himself loves to reassure, but Izuku can say that a majority of his current dislike of Endeavor is because he's frustrated at his inability to have done something about Shouto's childhood, despite the fact that he, A, did not know Shouto at all, and B, Shouto would probably not have appreciated any help from a quirkless kid like him. Yeah, that's another thought he'll have to file for later consideration. In any case, his priorities lie with the kind-hearted boy that he has come to know and who he has come to see as everything Izuku could have asked for in a friend. So no, he still does not like Endeavor, and he does not want to spend more time than he has to around the man outside of heroics and official school business. All this to say that Izuku was not particularly pleased when the pro-hero's muscled frame walked through the door, and the same afternoon that he hours ago spent tumbling with Shouto on the dirt and showing cool leaves at each other, and by the sight of Endeavor himself getting one look at his viridian curls and curling his lips as he glares at Izuku with narrowed eyes and squared shoulders. Enji Todoroki wasn't too pleased to see him either. To his credit, the man could intimidate. Likely one of his approaches to heroism, but a learned skill nonetheless. Izuku felt his frame shrink. He shied behind Shouto, who was one step ahead of him, both figuratively and literally. "What is he doing in my house?" Endeavor asked tightly. "Father, this is Izuku Midoriya," introduces Shouto slightly emotionally towards where Izuku hides behind him. "I am well aware who he is, All Might's son." "Are you fucking... I am not..." Izuku tries, but his words are ignored in favor of a glare from Endeavor and a nudge from Shouto. Yes, whatever," says Shouto. "I don't see why he should be here. Your partner will be... Boyfriend. My boyfriend. Newsflash, it's Izuku. Izuku is my boyfriend," says Shouto, blush on his face and fingers twitching on his side. Endeavor seemed to go through all stages of grief at once, as his face twists and morphs before his beard and hair flares up incredibly. "What?" he yells. Izuku takes a step behind Shouto as Shouto takes one towards his father. "You heard what you heard. He is my boyfriend. This is who I chose to be with." Shouto's father goes fully silent as he seems to contemplate what he was just told. He suddenly flares up again and fully looms over Shouto. Are you doing this to spite me, boy? He growls. What? Asks Shouto. Bringing this boy into our house, having him as your partner. Are you doing this out of spite? Demands Endeavor. Everyone goes silent, and Izuku watches Shouto make a dry, humorless chuckle. You're unbelievable, he says. Izuku can feel the tension in the room rise along with the temperature as Endeavor glares straight back at Shouto. You are unbelievable. Answer me, demands Endeavor. No, you can't even be happy for me for having found someone I can be happiest with without somehow making it about yourself, Shouto accuses. Izuku tries to calm him down, raising a hand towards his shoulder but limiting himself from touching him. No, not yet. Making it about myself, you insolent child! You started all of this! Yells back Endeavor. The temperature dropped suddenly as Izuku watches a frost creep onto Shouto's right cheekbone. You are a pathetic excuse of a father. I owe you nothing, he says sternly. You owe me your life and success. I didn't want either of those. Endeavor falls silent and Shouto's breath intensifies. A soft gasp escapes Izuku's lips as he finally places an even softer hand on Shouto's forearm. The words escape him before he's aware of what he's saying as both his hands find Shouto's right. Shouto, love, I think we need a moment. He shakily guides his hands onto Shouto's face. Heterochromic eyes meet viridian ones as they stare at each other in the ground. In the background, he can hear Fumi trying to coax Shouto's father into forgetting about this. It's no use arguing right now, darling. It won't be any easier. A shaky nod and a whispered hum exits Shouto as he turns towards the doorway that starts the path to his room. Izuku turns towards Fumi as he starts to pull away with Shouto. We'll just be 1 second. Feel free to start on dinner, says Izuku, well aware that Shouto tends to lose his appetite when his emotions rise. The rest of the family seems like that they want to say something, but it ultimately remains a mystery to Izuku, as he finds himself being led to Shouto's room. The door slams against the wall as the two-toned boy throws it open before he stomps his way to his bed and abruptly sits on it, hands instantly on his hair and shaky breaths coming from him. Izuku follows him quietly and gently, softly closing the door behind them and taking a moment to walk over to Shouto and sit facing him. Izuku's hand shakingly moves towards Shouto's skin and his fingers wrap around one of the boy's elbows. He guides Shouto's right hand until it rests interlocked with his own in between. The two of them just presses their legs together. Moans pass as Shouto starts to calm down. His breathing slows. His brows return to its neutral position. His eyes look tired and not erratic. I'm sorry for ruining tonight, Izuku says. Shouto comes back to full awareness and he shakes his head. It's not your fault. My father is just irrational and obnoxious. Izuku laughs. Shouto laughs. I suppose you did try to warn me, back when we started this whole thing. That I did, says Izuku, withdrawing his hand from Shouto's to tangle them together. Shouto starts. I don't really regret it. I don't really regret it though. Not actually. You don't? No. All in all, this was better than I expected. It's nice being around you. Izuku can feel something start to bubble in his gut, and he feels all tingly again all of a sudden. That's very kind of you, especially considering what the very sight of me does to your father. He's just an asshole. I can understand why he can't be anything but spiteful about us. That's not very nice of him. I don't think he would know what nice sounds like. They both laugh. Some more silence falls over them. You, starts Shouto. You called me something before going out of the room. When you called my name, you called me your love. You called me your darling. Izuku flushes the reminder of something he did more out of instinct rather than out of actual thought. His stomach does somersaults. His heart beats oddly fast. Yeah, sorry. It's just something my father used to call my mother way back then. Something I've heard Kachan's parents call each other. Didn't really think about it, he apologizes. You should do it more. Sorry? It fits with the nature of our relationship, I guess, says Shouto, suddenly very interested on the tiles of the floor, his face tinted the quite lovely pink he's seen a few times before. I wouldn't mind if you did it more. Now it's Izuku's time to blush as he nods quietly. Okay, I'll try. Okay. Izuku glances at the clock on Shouto's wall, finding it being 20 past the time they went to Shouto's room. We should probably go on, rejoin dinner with your family. Shouto glances at the clock too and nods along. You're right, we should go. Izuku stands up and opens the door with a subtle smile. After you, darling. It was safe to say by now, dinner with the in-laws, or rather singular in-law, in this case, was absolutely and thoroughly ruined for Izuku. He sits next to Shouto, now that they were at the back of the table, Endeavor still glaring daggers at Izuku, unwilling to let up in his attempt to kick Izuku from his house. Not that Izuku is really paying attention, since Shouto has started drawing patterns on his thigh, and he's far too distracted with his heart trying to beat out of his chest at the gesture. Shouto's sister, bless her, had tried to restart some semblance of a conversation around 5 times already, all but one of them thoroughly foiled and dropped the moment Endeavor and Shouto disagreed on any aspect, which happened quickly and not sparingly. The last attempt, however, had managed to bring back Izuku into the conversation, enough for him to try and chime in on one of the topics which had so far just managed to make Endeavor look even more annoyed, and Shouto to jump to Izuku's defense like live wire, wholly prepared to derive the attention away from the green-haired boy at the moment's notice. Inconvenient, yet very effective in terms of engagement. I agree with Izuku. Hero rankings are unfair to the amount of heroes there are. What would he know about rankings? Neither one of you is even an official hero. Well, clearly more than you. You're still number 2 in the people's hearts, replies Shouto. You've got some nerve, boy. Maybe it's hereditary. Shouto, it's really not a big deal, cries Izuku. He's still wrong, Shouto argues back. Natsuo chooses to intercept the moment marvelously. So, Izuku, you never told us how you and Shouto started dating. Endeavor grumbles as all the attention is turned towards Izuku, who cowers away from it a little while trying to find his words. Well, there was the sports festival, and then there was our battle. Oh, for fuck's sake, mutters Endeavor. And Shouto asks me out, right, Shouto? Shouto nods, which is not very helpful, but does let Izuku know that he's not still focusing on pissing off his father. And the rest was history. It is unbelievable that train of a battle could possibly be what made you attracted to him, Shouto, exclaimed Endeavor. Disappointing news for you, then, snarks Shouto. Yeah, That was the official end of the conversation. This was the first meeting of parents, or singular parent in this case, was definitely not shaping up to what Izuku had hoped it would be. It could not possibly get any worse though. That, dear readers, is called sarcasm, because yes, it could get a lot worse. Izuku has been raised with manners. Whatever manners his mother could teach him anyways. That means that he has, since a very young age, been taught to wash his own dishes, in addition to those of his guests when having one in a foreign house. This does unfortunately translate to volunteering to wash all of their dishes, as he has been taught, and as any devoting boyfriend would do. He is scrubbing one of the plates when the temperature of the room suddenly spikes, and he can feel a looming presence in the room. His body tenses at the prospect, since he seems to be able to tell what comes before even turning around to see who has just entered the kitchen. The heavy footsteps continue towards him, and he begins drying his hands, ready to face whatever will happen. He slowly turns around, and with a faked calmness, his heart beating hard, yet his manner relaxed and easy. Endeavor stands before him in all his glory, frown on his face, and tense body. He glares at Izuku for a few moments before a sound akin to a growl comes from the man. Izuku tenses up, squares his shoulders back, and looks up to the man with stern eyes. "Did you need to talk to me?" he asks, as calmly as his shaking breath and unstable manner will allow him. Endeavor stares at him for a few moments, still glaring before his face twists into a scowl of disapproval. "You're not meant to be here," he begins before he tilts his head up with pride. "You are not good enough for my son, and I will not stand for your wiles or your treachery to stain this family's honor or his integrity," he says. Izuku feels something bubble up in his stomach, something toxic and deadly, hotter than Endeavor's flames. He matches Endeavor's snarl, his own in unimpressed eyes, and he feels all the fear and anxiety seeps out of his body. "I assure you, Endeavor, that I have no intention to stain your son, as you call it," he says. "Despite what your father may mean to this world, boy, be assured that I will not hesitate to do what necessary to keep my son's reputation and well-being." Shocking, coming from you of all people, thinks Izuku. And wait, is he getting shovel talk right now? "You do not deserve Shouto. You do not belong here, in this house, or with him." Izuku freezes. Something swells in his throat. His words get caught at the tip of his tongue. A very real, a very genuine, and a very strong emotion slips past him. Past the facade he's built for the weak. Past the stories he's made, and the persona he's playing. Past his thoughts of Endeavor, and past the massive brick wall he's desperately tried to build since the moment he tore down the one keeping Shouto's fire locked away. He can't recognize the emotion, can't distinguish exactly what it is yet. He can feel the realness and the meaning of it. He stares back at Endeavor. "No, you're right. I don't deserve him." "Good, you recognize it." "I don't deserve him, but I will," says Izuku, determination in his eyes and any hint of civility gone. "I don't deserve him now, but it's not about what I think. It's about Shouto. All of this is because I love him." It's a half-lie he's saying this for the sake of the charade. It's a half-lie that he thinks he doesn't deserve Shouto. It's a half-lie to himself. Despite what you think I love him, and if he, not you, thinks I'm worth it, he will too. Endeavor goes still in front of him, fiery eyes burning into Izuku's mind and all through his memory. The man turns around with fierce step and begins to walk away. He looms the door for a second and speaks with his back turned to Izuku. You'll never be worthy in my eyes. Your eyes are not the ones that decide our future, replies Izuku. Endeavor's shoulders tense. My greetings to your father, Midoriya. He leaves the door, slamming forcefully behind him. Izuku goes back to the dishes. By the time Izuku goes back to Shouto's room, the sky has already darkened and the sounds of the night fauna were making themselves known through Shouto's half-open window. Speaking of which, the boy sat in front of the said window, staring off into the distance with a thoughtful expression yet tactfully composed demeanor. Izuku took off his shoes slowly and carefully, setting them next to the bed in an orderly fashion and going to sit next to Shouto himself. Hey you, how's it going? I hope you didn't miss me too much while I was doing the dishes. Shouto turns to look at him, eyes lighting up and color seeping back to his face. He stares at Izuku for a second before his body relaxes. Hardly, replies Shouto with a hint of a teasing smile. How mean of you, won't even miss your own boyfriend? He teases back. More than anything, it's because I was talking with my sister. Well, then I guess we both had interventions from your family, he says, starting to grab his clothes to change into nightwear. Natsuo talk to you? Asks Shouto, politely turning away and finding solace on his phone. Endeavor. Oh, comes the mutter. What did he say? Nothing I didn't expect from him. Did your sister say anything important? No. Well, there's that then. They fall back into silence as Izuku goes back to changing. Shouto stares intensely at his phone. A few minutes pass in their peaceful quiet before Shouto breaks the silence. Would you... he begins before cutting himself off suddenly. Yeah? Encourages Izuku. Would you want to accompany me to see my mother tomorrow? I'm not sure if you can see her yourself, but I'd want you to meet her. The air is thick with Shouto's anxieties before Izuku replies, smiling, That'd be great. I'd be honored for you to let me go with you. It's a plan then? Yeah. He doesn't say any more, doesn't ask for an explanation as to why Shouto would want to take him, doesn't pry as to why tomorrow of all days, but he trusts Shouto. Instead, he focuses on getting into bed and lulling himself to get some rest. Also, my sister might know about us. Unfortunately, Izuku is too far gone to sleep to hear the last part. Shame. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry if my voice was giving out at the end. I forgot to bring in water, so my voice was drying out, especially with me doing Endeavor's voice. It was really putting a strain on it. Anyways, a lot of dialogue in this chapter. Loved how Endeavor was portrayed, like the true shitbag he is. Anyway, just want to quick point out, in the notes, Vienna wrote that how this entire chapter is, but Daddy, I love him from Shouto's perspective, and I absolutely agree, and it is so funny. I mean, it's heartbreaking with some of the things, like when you realize how much of a normal relationship is absent from Shouto's life. Like, he doesn't have a good relationship model. I mean, I'm pretty sure Natsuo is like just a less violent Darby, and Fumi is just has something going on. Like, she is not in her right mindset. Shouto, well, the scars enough. No positive role models. I mean, it must have been tough life, especially with him asking, "What do you mean by darling and honey?" I'm like, that really sets into like place how he doesn't have any positive relationships in his life. It is heartbreaking. Anyway, enough boring you guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!